What is going on, ladies? Welcome back to another video. My name is Lion, and today I want to talk to you about what you need to do if he flakes on you. Now, let's assume you met someone new and you started dating someone new. Maybe you met them on a dating app, maybe you met them in real life. And at some point you set a date and he flakes on that date. Do you ignore it and give him another chance? Do you completely block and delete him and move on with your life? Or do you voice your concerns and tell him off? In this video, we're going to get very specific about what you should and should not be doing in order to discourage this type of behavior in the future, while at the same time not pushing people away prematurely. So let's get right into it. Now, before we even talk about how to respond, it's extremely important that we start at the beginning. It's extremely important that we even understand, right, and we agree on what actually constitutes a date. Now, this is a question that I get very often, right? So let's assume for a second that you're texting someone that you recently met on a dating app and you are looking forward to seeing each other for the first time. Now, say the conversation goes something along the lines of, oh, I would love to do, XYZ activity, and maybe we should do it this weekend. And you agree and you say, yeah, this weekend sounds great. Does that constitute a date? No. Now, let's say that you even picked a specific day, right? And you said, hey, how about Saturday? And they go, yeah, Saturday sounds great. Does this constitute a date? Also no. You see, a date requires a specific time and a specific place. So not only is it this weekend or maybe next Saturday or next Tuesday or whatever day, but it's next Tuesday, right, at 4 p.m. and I'll meet you at XYZ. Now that constitutes a date. At this point, you can count this as a date. Otherwise, this is not a date. And it is in your interest, ladies, right, to be very protective of your time, especially in these early stages. And there's a specific way that you can communicate with men in order to make them respect your time as well, in order for them to understand that you are someone, right, that cherishes their time. And if they want to be able to get access to you, they need to be very specific with their efforts. So let's run that conversation back. If, let's say, for example, you were talking about maybe checking out this new coffee shop that opened in your area. If they say something along the lines of, hey, how about next weekend? Or, yeah, we should maybe check it out sometime. Or maybe we should check it out sometime, next week, or anything along these lines, I want you to then be very specific about the time and place. So let's say, for example, they say, how this weekend would be great. The way that you could work around it, especially if you watch my earlier videos, and you know that the first date is probably not something that you want to do on a weekend. And if you haven't watched that video, I'm going to link it right up here somewhere so you can check it out. But let's say, for example, that they did say, hey, how about this weekend or how about this Saturday? Your response should be, oh, I can't do this weekend or I can't do this Saturday, but I would be happy to meet you at XYZ coffee shop or whatever that activity is on Tuesday, next Tuesday at 6 p.m. I'm finished work at around 5 and I'll be able to meet you there at 6 on Tuesday. You see, at this point, what you are suggesting is a specific and an actual date. There is a time, there is a specific place, right? And there is a specific day on which you will be meeting. At this point, you remove any sort of ambiguity about whether or not you're supposed to see each other on that date. Now, say, for example, that time doesn't work, that's completely okay as well. If he says, oh, I can't do Tuesday at 6, but how about Wednesday? You can do the same thing and say, oh, Wednesday sounds great. I can do at this specific time, right? And make sure that you pick a time that actually works for you based on your schedule. Once you come up with an actual day, time, and location, right? Make sure that when you finish that conversation, you tell them, all right, great, I'm looking forward to see you, right, and meet you. And by the way, again, if you haven't seen my video about why you should not be allowing him to pick you up, watch that video that I earlier referenced to. Before you hear what I'm not saying, it is not your job, and I don't think that you should approach them and invite them out on a date. But once you start talking about specific plans, I want you to get very, very specific about the time and the place. And if the time and the place is not confirmed, it does not constitute a date. At this point, you can make up your own plans on that day. You can go see your friends. You can go to the gym. You can spend time with your family. You do not have a date until you have a very specific time and place on a specific day. All right, so now that we got that out of the way, assuming that you have an actual date plan, the burden of confirming the date lays on him. he has to be the one that needs to come to you, right? Needs to communicate with you ahead of time that you still have these plans, especially if you made the date like, quite a bit in advance. So let's say it's a week in advance or even more than that, right? Depending on your availabilities and both of your schedules, right? But the burden of confirming lays on him. So if, for example, you guys have made these plans and then you haven't talked at all for the entire week, and this is the early stages of dating, ladies, make your own plans, right? So if you haven't heard from him in over a week leading up to your date, trust me when I say this, they're not that interested. All right, you are wasting your time with this person. You do not need to confirm the date. You do not need to, reach out to him and like hint that you have a date coming up or anything like that. If they haven't taken the time to, text you at all within like a week or so, or like days, leading up to the date, you guys have no date. Now, in the off chance that you do communicate with each other on a regular basis, I would like you to allow him again to confirm the date, right? So leading up to the date, so let's say again, your date is on a Tuesday. If you guys were talking to each other the entire weekend and then you guys talking to each other on Monday and maybe even exchange a couple of text messages on a Tuesday and he still did not confirm anything, he did not like, hey, by the way, I'm looking forward to see you tonight, or are we still on for tonight, or am I meeting you at this time or at that time, or confirming any details of your date, again, you do not have a date. And here's the important part, ladies. Like, I want you to use this as a test. I want you to see whether or not he's going to bring it up. Right? Sometimes we make plans because we feel like we have nothing better to do. Sometimes we make plans because we feel awkward, because we already went a little bit too far in that conversation and we feel like, oh, yeah, might as well make plans. Sometimes as we continue getting to know each other, we change our minds and we lose interest, and that's okay too. Right? So I want you to use this as a test, right? I want you to see whether or not he's really interested in, at the very least, at this point, continue to get to know you. Right? Any man would understand that a physical date is a huge step up in your relationship. Going in from just texting each other to actually seeing each other in person is a huge step. So if he's at the very least interested in elevating this relationship and exploring a potential relationship with you, trust me when I say this, he will confirm, and he'll probably do it more than once. Now, with that out of the way as well, assume for a second that leading up to that date, maybe the day of, maybe the day before, or maybe even last minute, within an hour or so off the date, he decides to cancel on you. So he gives you an excuse, or maybe he doesn't even answer at all, or maybe you show up to the date and he's just simply not there. What do you do in this situation? So before I tell you what to do, let's talk about what not to do. Ladies, please hear me out on this. Do not write him a long essay explaining to him how he made you feel or how horrible of a person he is for flaking on the date. Do not block him or delete him. Do not, call him on the phone multiple times until he answers just so you can tell him off either. Ladies, please learn to control your emotions in these situations. And trust me when I say this, if you still have any sort of level of interest in him, right, and things could potentially happen and life happens, but if you still have any sort of level of interest in potentially exploring this relationship, right, telling him off, yelling at him, telling him he's a horrible person, or texting him, or any of those things are not going to make him like you more, are not going to make him respect you more, are not going to stop that behavior either. If anything, it's only going to push people further away from you. So please stop yourself before doing that. So if you don't react that way, how do you respond? Do you just ignore it? Well, not exactly. So if you did have an actual date planned and he flakes on you, especially if he flakes on you last minute and writes you something along the lines of, hey, sorry, I had to cancel today, or I won't be able to make it today because of XYZ reason. I'm not feeling too well. I have to spend time with my family. My pet turtle got sick and I have to take care of him, or whatever the reason is, right? I have to pick up my sister from volleyball practice because no one can pick her up. Here's how you respond. Keep it cool and just let him know that you understand, right? So say something along the lines of, hey, I understand, no worries, drive safe, or feel better, or, say hi to your sister from me if you met her before, or whatever the reason is, just say, hey, do your thing, right? no worries, I understand, and hey, do your thing. Now, at this point, it's extremely important that you stop right there. Do not go back at him and say, hey, wait, can we do this again? Or how about next weekend? Or how about tomorrow? Or will you be available later on today? None of those things. I want you to understand, ladies, and I want you to really, embody the fact that the ball is 1000% in his court right now. If you had an actual date planned and he flakes on it, the ball is in his court. And the burden of coming back to you and rescheduling and making new plans is 100% on him right now. This is a great way to test his intentions with you at this point. Did he flake on you because life did come in the way, which happens, or did he flake on you because he's simply not that interested? If he is interested, he will come back to you with future plans. He will try to, schedule another date with you in the very, very short term from now. Now, if he's not that interested, you're probably not going to hear from him very often going forward, and he's definitely not going to reschedule another date. Now, this is going to tell you everything you know about the future of this potential relationship and whether or not you should continue investing or just move on. All right, now that we said all that, here's the most important parts of this video. So let's assume for a second that he is interested and he is going to ask you out again on a date in the very near future. Here's what you do in order to discourage this type of behavior going forward. So say, for example, you met on a dating app and within a few days, you made yourself available to see him in person, right? If he flakes on you, you need to make sure that you make yourself a little less available for him in the future. He needs to feel, right? And this is not something you communicate verbally. You need to let him know indirectly that he definitely lost a certain level of priority with you. So if, for example, you had a date planned after a few days of talking to each other, and at this point, he wants to maybe reschedule a new date. So say you had that date on Tuesday, and he then flaked on you. If he's trying to rebook it on, for the next day or maybe the Thursday of that week, right? Make sure you push that date. So tell him, oh, well, thank you. I would, be happy to see you, but I'm no longer available for the rest of the week. But I could do maybe Sunday afternoon, or I could do next Monday, right? Give him a bit of a period of time. Make sure that he understands that if he wants to be in your life, he's going to have to put an effort as well as have a high level of respect for your time. And if he doesn't respect your time, then he is going to pay the price by getting less access to you. Now, beyond the fact that you can push the date a little further, you can also play with the length of the date and the activity that you were going to do on that date. So say, for example, this wasn't your first date. Maybe it was your second or third or fourth, right? And at this point, your date was supposed to be a dinner date on a Saturday. If they flake on you, especially if they flake on you last minute, make sure that when you are rescheduling that date, you don't reschedule for the same type of activity. Again, you need to make them feel like they have lost a certain level of priority with you. So the next time you're going to see them, you say, oh, I can't do dinner tomorrow, but you know what? Maybe I can squeeze you in this week. How about Tuesday at like 4 p.m.? We can do coffee at Starbucks. Immediately, they're going to understand that they messed up. Immediately, they're going to understand that they lost a certain level of priority with you. And if originally you were going to make yourself available to go see them on a date, on a weekend, in a nice restaurant and spend a prolonged amount of time with each other, at this point, if they want to continue seeing you, they've just noticed that they will have to re-earn that right. So we're definitely adjusting the amount of access that we are giving someone that exhibits any sort of inconsistent behavior or lack of effort or interest. If you make them jump through a few hoops and they're happy to do so, and they continuously want to put more effort again, and you know that, hey, life happened and unfortunately you had to reschedule that date. But if following that first date, you either see no effort or you see their effort drastically diminish, especially as you are making them jump through a few more hoops, then you know that they're probably not that interested, and maybe that's your cue to look elsewhere. Now, finally, I want you to take the baseball approach to this situation. 3 strikes and you're out. So if someone flakes on you once, again, it might be okay as long as you take the procedure and you make yourself a little bit less flexible and a little less available. Now, if the effort continues and it shows that they continuously want to get to know you, then you can continue seeing them. And at some point, you should stop making them jump through hoops. But if the behavior continues, right? If they flake on you another time, a couple of dates in, and another time, at some point you need to cut them out. If you flake on me 3 times at the early stages of dating, maybe dating is just not a priority for you right now. All right, ladies, so this brings me to the end of this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to this channel if you aren't already. And let me know in the comments, has this ever happened to you in the past? Did they flake on you? And if they did, what did you do about it and how did it turn out? Before you leave, watch this video for more no BS advice on dating and relationships, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.